Order. Welcome to the City Commission meeting, February 19th, 2025 at 5 p.m. We're going to start with the invocation by Pastor Marbury and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Davis.
Father, we give you thanks and we give you praise for all that you have done and certainly all that you're doing. We ask, God, that you will look on us. We come together to share this setting again. We ask for the wisdom to be upon our heads in decision makings. Father, we pray that you will keep us mindful of our civility and keep us mindful of who we are. We pray, God, for your directions in all that we undergird to do for your glory. Have your way, God, even now. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Thank God. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk, please. Present.
Commissioner Davis,
Present.
Commissioner Justin Campbell,
Present.
Commissioner Will Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Rufus Forum. He said he was going to be late.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am going to open the floor up to public comments. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and we'll move right on to the next agenda item, which is regular business.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
before we get started, I'd like to make an emergency motion for agenda items. Is that
Add emergency
appropriate
item?
now?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
I move that we add two items, the Redmond Jones contract discussion and the Blue Crab contract that we received.
Okay, the city manager negotiation discussions on here.
Oh. I apologize.
That's okay, but you want it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
The Blue Crab.
apologize. Just one, the Blue Crab contract negotiation. I
We have-
apologize.
We have a
Yes.
motion. The second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. First item, objectives and goals for the city manager performance appraisal. Would you like to start or open the conversation, Ms. Jones?
Okay, so before you all, you were given a copy of the SMART goal worksheet as well as the page behind that is actually listing where we ended our with this discussion for city manager goals with the previous city manager. The second sheet, which was provided to you all, is just for information if you decide to use it. Under each one of those categories on the previous goal setting was just broken down into some measurable categories that you all may want to consider utilizing in those. So you'll have something measurable to move forward in the city manager goal setting. So that's what the second page is, and the highlights is just timeframes. You all are welcome to change them, use them, or you may not even want to use these, but it's just examples of things that can be measurable in order for the upcoming city manager or the new city manager to be able to do. I also provided you a copy of the team building. That was one of the things we had the last time, the team building paperwork from the last team building session where a lot of things was outlined or noticed about the organization. And some of that was gathered into the goal setting. So I did provide each of you with another copy of that team building and the outcomes, if that's something you all wanted to look back on as you're continuing on with the goal setting.
Thank you. Okay. With that said, who would like to start first? So we did draft, as was said, with the previous city manager, we drafted some, or we started to draft that, and then we're back to kind of refine and finish this up and hopefully have something in place for the next person.
Mayor,
Yes. go
may
ahead.
I? since I'm new to this, and I know you previously started this work, one of the challenges I'm having, which is why I was asking if the city's strategic plan or comprehensive plan was available, and I understand it's in progress. The updates are in progress, is I guess I was looking for something to drive the goals or where we're pulling the goals from, versus just thinking about what the city manager should do. For example, if the city's 5-year strategic plan or comprehensive plan is to do these 5 or 6 things, then I think that's a way we could hold the manager accountable to ensuring that we are doing things that are tangible, that have been identified and agreed upon for the city, versus the commission just identifying goals that we think a person should have. I don't know what they would be tied to other than our desires. So I'll say that. Now, if there's something that this was already tied to, I'm open to hearing it, because I may just need to be brought up to speed and level set. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Chapel.
I think you bring up a very valid point. However, I think one of the things that we would be able to utilize is having the city manager play an active role into helping us identify what the strategic plan needs to be. So for lack of better terminology, we would be able to input within that time frame to help us bring to a resolve the strategic plan and make sure that it really stays in front of us. I think that'll be one way that we would be able to hold some kind of accountability, is making sure that as we progress with the city manager, that he assists us in making sure that our desires as a commission are sought out through the strategic plan.
Do we want to start where we kind of left off and look at these items here and see if we want to continue down that path, come up with something new? So, for example, and of course, Ms. Jones, the HR department, tried to match what we had come up with measurable objectives. So the first one was enhance organizational management, employee engagement, management of the organization. And if we look through that, do we want to continue and have that as one of those items?
I think for sake of us trying to recreate a wheel, I think we have a pretty decent, because we did at that time vet the things that we wanted. And I know we have Commissioner Davis, who is new. So I think it would be to our advantage to ask her, outside of these things, is there anything that she would like to see added to this? Because of course, there's new blood on here, so we want to make sure that everyone's thought and consideration. But I think with those of us that are or have been on the dais, we've put quite a bit of work into this. So any additional information or any additional additions should be able to come from Commissioner Davis.
Thank you.
And that
Okay.
would just be a recommendation. It's
No,
not.
that's fine. I think everybody's comfortable with that, giving Miss Commissioner Davis the opportunity to express her thoughts on that. And
Okay, so that's this report, this document that has
No, it's
where
just-
are the goals?
no, it's this one with the highlighting
Oh,
that I'm
oh,
looking at.
yes, sorry. Oh, if I had this, I don't. I'm sorry, I think I just saw the first 2 sheets. I didn't get this yellow sheet until now.
And perhaps with your, what you had suggested earlier, maybe the next goal or another goal would be to the implementation of the strategic plan, the comprehensive plan, and the CRA plan.
Correct, yes. If, and I'm gonna yield to you guys, are those items here?
They're not spelled out.
Okay,
here.
so those are items I definitely would like to see added.
I get,
And do we think that would be added as a fifth item or incorporated into something existing? Number 4 might be the only one I see that it could be rolled into or just kept as a separate item.
Mayor, could you say that again?
I'm sorry.
Could you repeat what you just?
I just said, when I look at what we've already established, I think that it almost becomes a separate item unless number 4, it could be included in number 4 in some fashion, but I think it's a separate item.
Yeah, I think it's successful.
Yeah.
Okay.
How would we
It'll
like to
include
phrase that?
more, but I think it's a separate item
Yeah.
altogether.
One of, Madam Mayor, one of the items I would like to see that I don't know that I see, and please guide me if needed, is I'd like to see something where the manager is held accountable for implementing kind of the policies, the city policies. For example, I guess, and this may be included in the commission reports. But for example, when the council submits, and when a policy is submitted or something, do we get feedback as to when that's being implemented, the status of that? I guess if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say.
I think that also falls under HR to some degree.
Correct, but and I guess when I'm thinking about from a city manager, since HR reports to the city manager, that is being tracked, or, we have all, and let me say this, from my perspective, because I'm reading a lot, trying to onboard and make sure I catch up. I can see some things that have occurred in a previous commission meeting. Are we getting regular status of those items? Are we able to keep track of them? Are we seeing those items regularly? And if so, can we have I guess, an expectation or standard for that to continue with a time frame? I don't know.
Would that fall under 2, collaboration, transparency with city commissioners,
I think so.
commission relationship, and add that as another measurable goal?
So what I'm hearing you say is, we need to have that format, and it's sort of Commissioner Campbell been saying this for a while. We'll say something, we'll make decisions, but it never roll back here, hard copy, set in stone where we are.
That's correct.
And I agree with that, but what would be that vehicle? What matrix?
I think it could be a report, like the city manager can provide an initial report acknowledging council requests with an estimated time frame, either through response or a status update.
One thing that I would want us to take in consideration as we do that, I would not want it to be in an email form.
No,
I
correct.
would want it to be in a form of a report that comes before the commission, because a lot of times we emails can be missed. And if it's an important status update, I don't know if we needed to have it come before the form of when the city manager is given their report to report out on all of those things, or we put it to, I know that recently we've tried to minimize the department heads having to be available. So we would just have to, again, come up with a measurable
Mhm.
method so that we would know how to get it disseminated to us in an open fashion.
Well, I'd have a suggestion is maybe staff provides a bi-weekly report to the manager, or I'm sorry, the manager provides a bi-weekly report or bi-monthly, whatever
Time frame.
frequency we desire. That's if we give them a time frame, a
Now-
written report.
So are we looking for it in the, I know, previously we've just implemented and I know I thoroughly appreciate the staff. And it's been continued for the last, interim and prior to that they do send out an email with regards to, some of the projects. Are we looking at to be in that form but presented, or how would that look to you?
Well, I'll give you an example. So right now, we're getting the status updates. I don't know what they're called from
It depends on the week.
the interim
it's-
city manager. So you're correct. And that's the point I'm trying to make. So what I'm really asking for is a standardized report that provides, and perhaps it's by categories, you know, grant projects,
Used to have that.
grant projects, you know,
We did have a document, and I
Yes.
know once we switched over to Microsoft 365, they were working on, for lack of better words, the Google version of
mhm.
Google Docs, so that we would be able to log on and have that that workspace. I don't know if it was sought out. It's a totally different
Yeah.
crew of people, but I knew that was something that previously we did have where it was being emailed out, but it was going to be in a central location that we would be able to go on and click and find those statuses. So that's something that we do need to circle back around, because I do think that would be to the benefit. It's real time, and then anytime we want those updates, we would be able to go on and see.
So to that point, I'm saying a standardized report. It could be in a location, especially if we have technology and resources that we're not using, that we can have a data repository where those reports are expected. So again, I don't want to get so in the weeds that I'm saying what the report looks like, but we definitely want a standardized report that includes all of the categories that we need to decide that the commission needs updates on, regular updates on.
Okay, and
Is that, excuse me,
Mhm.
go ahead.
it's actually on number 2, item 6. Develop and implement a standardized presentation template within the first 90 days of employment to ensure consistency, professionalism, and clarity across all employee presentations, but to include those project updates. I mean,
Correct.
or whatever. Would
Correct.
that be, that's what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. And this is for, so this is for the staff. I guess is their reporting or bringing reports to
Well, isn't this the city manager goals?
across all
Yeah.
employee
Yeah.
presentations.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I think that covers it.
Okay, does that cover that? Okay,
It
I would like
does.
to add a little bit maybe to that as well in terms of that update and as well as where we are with the budget lines
Yep.
that are running those projects and the amount in those budget lines and how much has been consumed. So we understand and know how though if the project is an ongoing project, we need to know tracking that project, how much of that budget has been consumed. And I think that's a good way. We've been asking for that for a period of time as it relates to that.
I agree, Commissioner Bourne. And may I add, Mayor, a request, as we deliberate and converse with regards to these things, I want us to make sure, as with legal, that we're on the right track. And if we need to be kind of steered in a direction to make sure that we are, I don't want to say productive, but if we are having conversation that if we just know cannot happen, to kind of save us the opportunity and kind of just put us back on track, so that because when I say that, I just want this, because this is a document that is going to be something, once it's signed, it's going to basically be a legal binding document, and we don't want to implement anything, or we don't want to say something and then it can be. So I just want to make sure that as we are thinking things out, that it's in a way that if you had to sit in the courtroom, that you'll be able to
Defender?
have our backs.
But to that point, and not to belabor this, I know you say you don't like the email forms. However, I would like both forms, the written and oral report, because you can't go back on an oral report but when it's written, you could go and reference that written report.
When I say
So-
don't like that, I don't want that to be the sole.
Right, so I want
per-
both, yeah,
preferred
would like to
method of
have both
conversation.
written in or
I prefer
presentation.
both as well.
That's all I have to say.
If I may, Mayor, isn't this what you're talking about, as part as the city manager report that you guys get on a monthly basis? Did you want it, so you want it
Yeah.
broken down more?
I think it should be done more frequently, like bi-weekly. I like that because things happen every day.
Correct.
And we should be abreast on, because sometimes, and it's just by nature, some folk come up here more often than others. So, and she could think, or he could think that he have relayed that to all the commissioners, but it didn't disseminate down. So pushing it out every other week would be excellent. So none of us could say we didn't get the information. So,
And I think also there was some discussion about being specific with categories like
Right,
grants, for
right.
example, that repeating that, updating those reports on specific items that are crucial to the organization. Also, Commissioner Davis, you mentioned the implementation and follow-up on the various plans, strategic comp, CRA. Is that going to be a fifth? So I need to kind of.
Okay, Madam Mayor, if I may, the strategic plan is already listed under your goal 1. As well as the policies that Commissioner Davis was speaking of for the city manager being responsible for the policies and the equity of them. That's listed there. The other 2 was the comp plan and this
CRA.
CRA plan. So do you want those 2 on 5, or we're gonna include it in the bullet points?
fine.
It's already good there?
So do we feel that's covered? Without saying,
Yes.
okay, just want to make sure.
And Commissioner Campbell, to your point on the legality of any of this, it's always going to be changing, but I will flag number 1D. Conducting quarterly diversity and inclusion training sessions to support a more inclusive workspace. This is a moving target, but there have been threats, given the new administration, to take away funding from local governments if they have a DEI policy.
Is there a way that we would be able to utilize that or change it to
Something more
um,
powerful.
something that will cover?
More
like-
flexible?
Yeah,
More flexible. yeah.
Yes.
thank you for that.
Well, G had also said it. Diversity.
I think if you just did just the quarterly training and then it could, the content can be what it is, but I think if you can just say the quarterly training or whatever, and whatever content that you put in there, if it meets that criteria and those conditions, that might satisfy the case, because I do remember we did lose a $300,000 grant last year, after it made it, through both the House and the Senate side, just for the word diversity. Cultural, yes. Simple as that. It just dropped 300,000.
So
Conducting quarterly training sessions. Are we just doing away with diversity and inclusion?
It can be included in the content, but not specifically stated.
the training sessions to support a more.
Inclusive,
more
Inclusive.
Yes,
I was gonna
it-
use the other too.
inclusive, Commissioner.
I
you think?
won't, I'm a little
Community
hesitant of-
reflective?
I'm a little hesitant of
you
inclusive.
beat
Oh,
me to
Is
it.
it community reflective? I mean,
So
what
we can just
reflects?
find a word to
Reflective of the
replace
community.
inclusive.
Do you, may I have some time to research this to find out a
That
good
would be
way
great.
out?
Thank you.
Okay.
That's good. Mayor, I have two things I'd like for us to consider. 2 additional areas. We have 4. So a 5th item that I'd like to see is some kind of servant leadership to address the needs of the community. I don't know the right way to see it. If that's in there, I'd really like to see that be a separate area. And included in that is for the city manager to conduct some community forums
That's in
or,
4.
That's in-
right, so. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's in
yep, yep.
4.
Community engagement and inclusivity. Well, here's that word again.
And then he has a requirement to hold at least 4 community.
Okay, got it. I see it. I'm sorry. I'm just getting this document.
And you
Okay.
had something else as well, you said?
Yes, is it spoken in there about developing, a mechanism to get community feedback in writing, like a community survey, or, I mean, I don't want to assume, because we have community forums and it looks like we get feedback, but I don't know what comes of that.
I
So-
know,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Mayor, I know that, Recreation is working on a survey, that it was started up under the last administration. But they're working on it, but I think it's an opportunity for us to make sure that it's something that's sought out, so we would want to add that as a bullet item under 4.
I would.
That we listed.
Exactly, how would that be placed? Because there is providing monthly reports to the commission summarizing community feedback and outlining actions taken in response, but beyond that, what would you like? to
Yeah,
add?
I think those are items that come. I'm asking us to request in a formal, maybe a performance-based approach to getting community feedback or creating a community survey. I'd like to see something more formal
Okay.
And to that, I would,
and concrete.
I would, and this is what I've experienced as well, that there be some kind of formal, communication from what stems out of our workshops. I know Commissioner Borm has had several workshops, and I haven't really seen anything put out to the community with regards to either summarizing or actions that we can actually take. And I witnessed that with my town hall, that we got a lot of positive feedback, but there was really no push out from from our perspective as to things that were tangible, things that we had really no control over at the time, but still was investigating. So I think that anytime that a commissioner or a public forum is had, that there should be some kind of
Follow-up.
follow-up directly from City Hall to the citizens.
So I think I'm sorry. I was gonna say, I think I have a suggestion for an item, so just for you guys. Identify and implement a performance-based approach to address concerns from a community survey.
What would that be considered an action plan? So you can come back and what you're taking away from that, because I was gonna ask that about your last forum. What, sort of like, where do we go from here?
And that's
And
what
you had a forum, but what are we doing?
happens
What
next?
came out of that forum? That's very important.
Right, and can I ask a question with regards to Assistant Chief Newcomb? Is there a set, because I know you do the zone meetings and I know that you do the walk-alongs, I mean, the Talk Tuesdays and things of that nature, but is there any formal survey that you all send out, or is it just people that show up? Has there been anything formal that has been sent out to the citizens?
We do not publicize or advertise the Talking Tuesdays. We did it first and it really didn't seem to make a difference in the number of people that we are able to reach out to because we're literally walking the streets. And we make contact with people who may be outside that we may see walking from a car going into their home. So we make contact with people that we visually see when we're doing the Talking Tuesdays. So we don't do like a survey or
There's
anything.
no okay.
We're just making contact with folks and getting them to know our staff, getting to know the community members, and just asking generalized questions of what's going on. Is there anything going on? Is there anything we can help you with? And we don't just ask that question directed strictly at our side of the business, but we ask, is there anything that we could do? Is your trash being picked up on a daily basis? And there's been a couple of times where we've had people tell us, I've had this pile of trash sitting out here for days and it hasn't been picked up. And then we notify Joe or Ed or whomever it needs to be. And then we follow back up with the other directors or other team members.
Okay. So my concern about the survey is, and I know we've done a few surveys, even when they were trying to, I can't even think of the guy's name that come from West Florida,
Quint Studer?
Studer, that some of the feedback, it really didn't give the substance that we needed in order to really be able to take action or take into consideration and other surveys that have been put out. So I'm a little concerned if we put that as a tangible item and we don't have any tangible information to build that component off of, if that makes sense. I think it's important, but I don't think that it needs to be a part of the evaluation process, because again, you have certain individuals who will feed into a survey, but for the vast majority of city residents, we're not even getting 1% of core information when we put that out. So I think it would be a disadvantage to whoever sit in that seat as city manager to put that as a requirement and we don't get participation from the citizens.
I understand. So one of the things I think about with surveys is, of course, your feedback is only as good as the survey and only as relevant as the number of people who respond. I get that. However, I think there's a way to determine if survey responses are even statistically valid. I say that because I don't think we should throw out surveys. I believe, while it may not be a great response now, as the city, I think, improves and we gain trust of our citizens, that their feedback is even taken into consideration. That just might be the hopeless optimist in me, but hopefully it will. But I do agree that it should not be the sole metric, but I still would like to see it incorporated. And I'm going to read what I think I've put down as you were talking and hope if this addresses it or if not. But what I'm trying to drive is when a community forum or anything occurs, that we get something from it and we do something with it. So that's what I'm trying to drive, and that there has to be some accountability for that. And so what I said, identify and implement a performance-based approach, meaning what can we do and how can we get it done and by when, to address concerns from community surveys and or community forums. Is that,
Basically like a post,
yeah, within, and I really want to make it measurable, and I want that within,
It
and
could also be time certain. There's got to be a time.
yeah, within however much time from the
from the
event. So that's what I'm proposing that we add to that.
And I have a couple of examples on the last couple of forums that I had. I didn't push it out to the community, but at the same time, it did serve a purpose. And it example would be the one that we had at the golf course that had with the lady that worked at the golf course had a concern with chickens, the noise, and different things of that nature. And so we did implement a policy as it relates to the noise and the number of chickens you can have, even if you can have them in the city or what have you. So we did that. I didn't push it out to the community, but we did let the individuals know that this policy had been put in place per concern. The other thing, that the last forum that we had issues where there was intrusion right here on the riverfront. I'm not going to name the individual house, but we had our city attorney to work on that. But a letter was drafted as it related to that, to be able to help support these individuals with losing about 50 to 60 feet of their property. The other thing we had was the noise associated with the what's this? Water, there's the lift station. The lift station, not only the noise, but it also had an odor that is coming from there. And I think that when we approved that $200,000 and something, $300,000 for the new one, that's gonna take care of the odor. The other piece is that the noise, they're working, and I think they're gonna be doing something around the noise, and they're gonna be building something around the facility for noise. So again, I think, those things are important. I think, we should send out things like, of that nature, but sometimes, certain things have a little sensitivity to it that where we can just talk in general. So I think it'll be a good thing to send some of those things out, and those are wins.
And to piggyback on that, even if no formal communication is out to the community, at least allowing the commission, because again, sometimes we have to be mindful when we attend those events. Some of us try to leave or some don't stay the entire time for sunshine law for whatever reasons, because again, conversations that take place in town halls can lead to one trying to ask another commissioner, and that's not what we're there for. So even if some kind of form of communication is not sent to the general public, that it be at the it be a requirement for the city manager to make sure that some form of communication is provided to the commission.
Yeah, and one of the other things I want to make sure we are doing as a commission as well is ensuring that the city manager operates as the city manager and the commission operates as the commission. Because one of the things that's confusing to me coming in is I know certain commissioners hold forums versus the city manager versus like we're all over the place. And sometimes I think that could be, as a citizen, it was very confusing to me. Like, where do I go? What's going to happen? How often are these things? And I think that'll solidify and let the city understand that we'll be having, it says, I think at least 4 forums, or some resemblance of order for the city, and that are not one-offs here and there as needed. I mean, or as determined that we need.
I think, again, I think it was just incumbent upon individuals was just doing whatever they felt was right to reach the community. And what I had always done was did quarterly meetings, which I should have had one the past week or so, but I could not, continue to do that. But again, I think it's individual, but if you want to try to coordinate it through and have it with a city manager or a commissioner, we can rotate them. But we do need to reach the public in any way we can to make sure that we're serving the community.
Yeah, and I'm not excluding that. I really just want the city to understand how we operate and what to expect. So no,
And clarifying on the roles.
that's correct, and clarifying roles, because I think some things have been muddled. I just want to make sure.
Okay, we're still at 4.
Okay.
Do we want to add
Number
the
5,
survey?
professional skills and development. I think we need some performance. But I'm sorry, did we finish adding that 6 items?
I'm trying to.
So professional development is something that is
It's already in there.
Yeah, it's covered.
So it's where, can you guys direct me?
I also think we don't want this to get too large and unwieldy that we.
Yeah,
can't.
agree. However, I do want things in proper categories too versus general.
Mhm.
That might be what I'm trying to do too. And
Okay.
again, it's just necessary, but where is it? Because the fact that there's 2, 4, 7,
1B, I think. professional
7 and 1,
Development.
No, it's
Yeah.
two.
2, 2.
2.
You have 3, which is 2A, section 3, organizing at least 2 annual workshops to align goals, improvement, communicate. So those are all with regards to professional development.
But
No,
you're talking
no,
about-
no.
You're talking about city managers.
Yes, attending ICMA conferences that focus on city manager leadership.
That's in the contract too.
That's in the
Okay.
I think every one of them.
Well, but coming back with
Yeah, I think
from
that's
it,
the piece.
Right.
Closing the
that's
loop.
what
We're closing
they
the
go,
loop.
but what? We go, but what?
Yeah, I think that's true of all of us. It's closing.
That's
that
my
loop
point.
And what is the city paying for? What are we getting?
That's all, that's really what I'm driving. What is he gonna come back with from that? Is there an expectation?
Okay, well, let's,
And, yeah, right, be careful.
I'm trying to find a category to put it under.
Anyway, I just was
versus-
suggesting some
Okay.
kind of professional development to benefit the city is what I'm really trying to drive, but if
I
that's
honestly
in the
think that
contract,
should
if
be
it's
some-
fine.
I honestly think that should be something that it, not only for the city manager, but implementing professional development for any and every staff that could benefit
Agreed.
from professional development, whether it be another certification program or whether it be a conference that HR needs to attend, legal needs to attend, like anything professional development that we feel would benefit our organization needs to be taken in consideration, not just for the city manager.
Agreed. And so, but I was just saying for the city manager, since he or she is a commission's employee, but that expectation would be for the city manager to do it for each director and down, which is a good point.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And,
Agreed.
and Don Holmes, so when he was here as city manager, he did implement that and we had, it followed up, the assistant city manager also. We continued that and I think we had that,
Joe Saviak was-
right, and they did that for 2 years in a row or a couple years in a row. And so it's in place that they've offered it to staff as well. So, but just, again, that need to be incorporated into the city manager's, performance review. To
Yeah.
make sure that that push, continues on with the staff side of the house.
And perhaps would something need to be added to number one,
it would be
employee
one, that's what I was
management?
just looking at, yeah.
Point of clarification for me. These goals that we're writing are for this year. If this is for this year.
Correct, and hopefully some of them will be achieved so we can.
So the reason I'm asking is because I think this is fine with where the city is with getting a new city manager and getting these things in place where we've had some gaps. But I would think that after the first year, because we all have a strategic plan, then we can make more specific goals towards growing our city, filling gaps, and some of those type of goals. I guess that's what
Well-
that's why I'm asking the question.
I would think that that's one of the reasons why we want a seasoned city manager to actually, as you said, knowing the role, kind of lead us with that. Because we trust the certifications that he or she already have. They have the experience and training that they could kind of guide us and guide the staff along. So, if we be rigid on, I think all this is great, but if we be so rigid, when is he gonna be able to manage? Cause he's gonna come in here with, he or she coming here with a whole lot to do as it is. And I'm like you, I see this one year, we got these timelines. And, we need to know, is it doable? As we sit back and we put them out here, let's ask ourselves, is this doable? Is it attainable? And if so, we don't have benchmarks right now, because we haven't had anybody else actually do this prior.
I think when we had the initial conversation, we put it in a method that I think it all goes back to how it can be graded. So if there's, say for instance, we identify something on here, if there's an earnest attempt to get something done, we state that there was an earnest attempt and we make sure that it's graded or scored in that method so it does not count against them if everything is not on this list that is obtained within that time frame of the evaluation. And I think our first round is 100 at the 100-day mark. Of course, half of this stuff won't be accomplished, by that 100 days, or by that 180 days. But in consideration, if there has been attempts, we need to make sure the metrics allows us to where it does not count against if it was something minute that, I don't want to say minute, that may not have been the best terminology, but if it's something that could not be obtained, but working towards obtaining, if that makes sense.
It
So we have to
does.
make sure that the measuring component covers where there is something that has not been completely addressed.
There are several performance review tools out
Yeah.
there for city managers, and I think we need to really pull those out and fill in blanks or adapt it to this community, city's need. Because when we
Right.
get to that point of actually evaluating, we have to have that tool.
That's right.
And I think that, I sent you several that I had found, this was a while ago, and I know there are quite a few out there. So I think that would be crucial to have that soon so that we can pull that together as well, once we establish that.
So is that what we're gonna do, the game plan? So whoever's hired and brought on board, we're gonna sit down and actually
Ye-
put those goals for okay. Because I know they presented their 30, 60, 90 day, but what is our 30, 60, 90?
That's right.
That's what I thought we were actually.
And we may pull from something that person offered, but yes, I think we need to come up with that. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Commissioner Davis.
No,
Good, yes, 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 yes. And anyway, yes. One of the things I see, I think we're missing is a fiscal management goal. So again, this is how my brain thinks, right? I think about what the city manager is to do, right? What our city needs. And I think where I'm struggling is a lot of these are behavior related. I may not be using the right word. They seem behavior related to me versus, what's the word I want to use versus, technical, if that makes sense. And it may be what we need now, but when I think of 30, 60, 90 days, this first year, yes, these things need to occur, but we also need to make sure we're he or she is fiscally responsible, that he or she is coming to the commission with recommendations that are fiscally responsible. And I guess I don't see that.
Yeah, and I think we
Here.
would
Does-
just.
you-
we
you
are
understand
so
what I'm
much out-
saying?
Yeah, we would just, since this has never been done for a city commissioner in the city's history, to my knowledge, a
Okay.
performance appraisal. We were starting from square one, and I think we were starting
get
with that
it.
background. I agree with you. There's also other things like economic development.
Correct.
revitalization.
Yes.
There's some key, there could be the whole issue around unhomed and those issues around that we need to work on a larger scale on. Yeah, I can see those being.
Yes, because some of we need this, but we also in tandem, they got to still run the city, right? Not just come with,
That was my concern about having so much of,
this is a lot.
this is a lot.
This is a lot.
And that was my concern, that you need to make it achievable, as was said.
When we say a lot, I want us to be mindful that I think at the time of the conversation, we was just trying to put everything out there.
Yeah.
I would agree.
To take into consideration.
Yes, yes.
But again, I think that the things that you have identified are very important.
Mhm.
But again, how do we
Include.
make sure that it's implemented in a way, because some of that, I mean, it's implemented in a way that we will be able to tangibly hold him accountable. That's my whole
Correct.
thing. We can put whatever we want to on the paper, but how do we hold him accountable? I don't think this is solely what we're going off of when it comes down to the actual evaluation. I think this is a component of what it is.
Yeah.
So if we solidify this, then I think that we will be able to move to a more work-driven documentation. But I think when we initially tried to put this together, we were coming from the morale of both the commission and the city manager at that time.
I agree.
And then trying to make sure that we take in consideration the camaraderie that had dwindled so much when it came to City Hall, to making sure that we had somebody when they were to come in, that they can take our, they consider our staff and where they had been. So, or what they have been through. So I think that's where this document, but I think that if we need to conclude this, so we don't continue to make it a growing document that it reaches further and further away from being obtainable, and then we transition to the more performance driven as far as the things that you've, the actual things that we will be able to measure him by through, and I will make the recommendation that we look at the IMCA evaluation, who encompass a lot of the things that Commissioner Davis has brought forth, and it is actually, it has recently been updated within the last year or so. I'm thinking within the last year. And I just reviewed that document, and I'll send it over to staff to make it easier for you, so you won't have to dive for it. But I think that will be the tool that we can utilize to drive our own, if we don't just adopt that, because it is very comprehensive. It is very very it covers all the bases. So I think that is something that we will be able to take in consideration as we move forward, because as Mayor stated, this is something that we have not done. I've been sitting here since January of
Okay.
2015, and we've gone through quite a few city managers, and there was really nothing outside of Dia's conversation that we've had in the open, in the sunshine. But other than us trying to nail it down, I think that we're trying to make this a little something that we'll be able to be more tangible, so that anybody who sits in this position will be able to sit here and be able to follow. So
So that helps me. And that's exactly what I feel this is. So you guys have stated what I'm trying to put into words. Number 3, I'd like to use as an example. Improve accuracy and clarity in commission reports. So when I look at these items, I believe this is telling someone how to do a report and what to do a report. So again, when I think of a city manager and a deliverable, I think of biweekly reports to the commission that provide updates on the areas we would like to get. Having to tell somebody to use plain language, for example, that's not
I
not
can agree. and it's
something we
actually
need to
just
measure,
probably
and it's
some-
really insulting, and it's really beneath the level of the role. So, but it's not lost. I just think we don't have goals that are measurable that we can evaluate someone on in some of these. But to your point, Commissioner Campbell, I do understand what this is and how it came about. And I too looked at some of the evaluations that were kind of standard for a city manager. And just to read a couple of items I found, like there were 6, I think, categories. And some of this fell into it. Like one was mission aligned strategic thinking and actions, making sure everything they do fits under what Palatka needs versus someone, wherever else they're coming from or what they, for example, we know we had a staff issue. So perhaps ensuring that 85% of staff is retained or something like that. I think of that as something we can measure and work with. Policy execution in support of community goals. We do have some programs, I think, in the city that we need to make sure they're followed. We hear a lot about, I'm sorry, what is it? When the homes need to. Mhm. Yes. So some of those programs, we need to make sure they're occurring. We talk about homelessness or, something.
Sustainable housing, there are so many.
Yes, those are the areas that would be policy execution in support of community needs. Maintaining a positive work relationship with the council. those are the things where it can come in with the reports and the whatever else, we need to do, maybe a 360 assessment. So that's an example. Long-term planning for sustainable growth and fiscal health of the city. That's the fiscal management pieces I'm talking about with the budget. And then we talked about some servant leadership with the community. So those, when I think of that, that's what I think about, that we need to define that in the first period, the probationary period, we can go see, is this city manager in line with this? Is the city manager in line with these things that we can actually measure the city manager on versus is the report in plain language? So just as an example, and I think that clarifies my whole thought process.
Commissioner Campbell.
And for sake of time and making sure that we use our time efficiently, because there are some other options, things to discuss. Can we charge staff with bringing back to us an actual or 2 to 3 actual city manager evaluations, tools that we would be able to look at and identify, and we come back for a time certain to hash that out, preferably sooner than later. I know we meet, but I think that will probably maximize our productivity if we actually work towards the evaluation component. This is good that we would still be able to provide and build off of, but if we work towards the actual evaluation component, I think that will probably benefit our time a lot more than what we're doing right now.
And may I add one other piece? I'm taking us out of the box. I'd like to, if staff could look at other examples, because when we get this done, I'd like to see it posted on the city website for clarity. Other cities have done that for transparency, so they can see how the city manager is doing and how we're evaluating. But
we do
there
that?
are several examples out, and that's something I want to ask legal to check into.
Okay.
To see what that looks like.
Any more on this topic? Okay. Well, hopefully we can go from there. We are gonna have to, I think if Madam Clerk can come up with some dates for us to come back, once we have that information, and review it quickly, that we can come back fairly quickly. It's gonna be a busy month in March.
And let me ask this question, because I know everybody has a lot of stuff going on within their departments. How long, staff, do you think that you would require to get that information to us so that we can kind of build upon that? Again, we want to try to do it as soon as possible, but then again, we want to take in consideration everything that you already have going on in your departments.
I will have Avery start looking for the evaluations, this week. Do you all prefer to get them in email or just bringing it back at a time certain?
No, we would need it
That-
before,
Yeah, okay.
so that we would be able to go through and highlight what we think is important to us. But I just want us to all have the same information to go by. And then if there's any additional information that is not, if it can be communicated prior to the meeting, so that we can take that into consideration as well. So when we come into the meeting, we're coming into the meeting to bam out what exactly we want that evaluation to look like.
So electronically in advance of the meeting, whenever that meeting's gonna be.
We should be able
Do
to
you wanna hold
produce
it?
those to, the commission, by the first of next week, if
Okay.
not the latter part of this week.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
I think the attorney sent that out last time, didn't you? You sent out city manager evaluation. It was, I think I got it in my car.
No, I got it, but I wanted, that's.
Make sure everybody else got it. Yeah, you guys sent that out.
It was,
It's-
yeah, it was, and there are
That's why I
multiple.
said I can send it back to you, so it won't be.
There are
Thank
multiple
you, I
ones,
appreciate it.
too.
That was a while ago.
Great.
Okay.
May I just make a suggestion? Virginia, you can actually get an evaluation form on Florida League of Cities as well as ICMA. If you need help with
There's
that, I
also
belong
another
to both
city
of them.
manager organization that may have some tools as
Yeah,
well.
it's called FCM, so,
FCCMA.
yeah.
If you're just talking about the city manager, evaluation form only,
Mhm.
we've got multiple copies of that, so
No,
we-
one
what are
has
we
been
looking for?
updated. One has been, the one through IMTA has been updated and has been different than what we've received in the past. It's more
Oh.
We
current.
want the most current.
Okay. Would check it out.
Okay, anything else on this item on the agenda? Um, next, city manager negotiation discussion.
Okay, so you did receive, each of you, the counter offer submitted by Redmond Jones. And so we need direction, HR needs direction specifically on how to proceed. Time is of the essence here. I believe, as you have been informed by Mr. Jones in that cover letter, he is also interviewing for a city manager position in Georgia. So time is of the essence.
And just for sake of refreshing, what was the high end of our number that we agreed to? Was it once?
170.
And can I get, what was the high end of the range that we provided when we put the job out to bid?
196.5.
For the record, I don't think we agreed to the top was gonna be 170. I don't think,
That would have to come back before the commission.
right, you said it would come back. Yeah, you guys only go to 170. Okay, yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that was right. Before we proceed, may I
Yes,
present
go
something?
ahead.
I sent something to the city clerk that actually I received from city attorney and our last. It didn't, let me send it to us. And it was the salary ranges throughout the state.
Correct.
Still have that document? You could do it. I won't have to do it.
I don't have it on this laptop, no.
So can I send it back to you, queue it up? And those ranges, just for our reference, I hope it help us through this situation, but, Amanda, I'll try to send it to you. Hey, I don't know your email, what is it?
A Hayes, same as Karen's, except for A instead of K.
Hey, is that Palatka? Y'all related?
Yes.
No.
You know, I didn't, I have not caught that until you just said it.
Crazy, I'm really-
That's public record.
It's not.
You wonder if I can, his agent would bring it down.
You just sent it, so it probably hasn't come through yet.
Anyway, I know the city attorney have them, and that would be something that we probably could look at. I think we should. That's information we should review, but I just want to put that out there because we did have it last time as a tool that we used and reference. That's it. That's all I want to say, Mayor.
Okay, but again, time is of the essence, and Mr. Jones also included the range information for city managers in Florida and his attachment too.
Listen, we gotta be realistic. We have to think about our community, our citizens, and what it is that we know. I don't want this to become an opportunity for someone to come in, make a payday, and then the bar has been set so high because they're in the negotiation process. Again, we really have to take into consideration our city, our finances and things of that nature. I know what we advertised as, but in looking at where he's coming from, that's a bit much of an ask.
I concur. I think we've got to be fiscally responsible to our community and our citizens. And it's, to me, one of several things that was of concern. That the salary was obviously a major one. I think he's out of our league. Maybe he's worth every penny on when those are going nickels. But I just think that's just too much to ask of our community to accept that salary. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I agree. I did respond,
and provided some information prior to this meeting. And I've been thinking about it since I responded. I definitely am not in favor of offering more than, what we offered in the contract or the max that we allowed the negotiation to have. One of the things I thought about as a counter is to perhaps tie some increase to performance
That's
in the
right.
future.
That's what I was gonna say.
And whatever that number is. When I looked at it, I believe the request is about 20K. Yes, if I can see that.
193.
Correct, which
Plus-
is about $23,000 more, right, than our highest offer. And so I'm not saying go that much, but I was thinking perhaps, oh, thank you. What I said is offer a base salary of the 170K, which is the max that we said that we would offer, with the bonus structure at agreed upon metrics at 6 months and 12 months. Whatever those numbers could be that could potentially get him closer. I'm not a fan of going to the max unless Palatka is some stellar off the chart city in 12 months. But here was my rationale, and I went and did a little bit of work. I think I can share my findings here. That I looked at the current salary for the Iowa City, where he's coming from, manager, not deputy manager, but the manager, which I saw was about 200K. And that city has a population of approximately 75,000 people. Now, I know that in Palatka, obviously, is substantially less. And while if you look at the per head count, and I know it's more than just a per head count, what we're offering with looking at 10,000 citizens in Palatka is about $13.50 per head versus like $2.66 a head in Iowa City. However, the city may be functioning differently and have more systems in place. We know where we are. So that head count is not the be all to give all. It's just a perspective. But I do think based on the work that we have to do, the head count amount is reasonable to me. But again, I'm not a proponent of going over the 170. We have, especially with the history of our city managers, with our city's feedback and perception, and we really need some proof of work before we can move forward. For salary wise, and just to stick with salary, that's where I am with that. But I'm not opposed to offering some future to get him.
And I think that that's
Closer.
almost, that happens. That's almost what I meant. We can do that. I guess we're still, at the base salary. I think that we just have to make some decisions about whether we want to counter Mr. Jones or whether we just say that's it, 170's it, the max.
I think if we counter him with what Commissioner Davis mentioned about with the 170 plus the maybe if
Steps.
6 months, we can give a bump. The next 6 months, make it performance, you give a bump. And then we'll have a cap on that so that we're not maxing out at the 196.5. So I think if we offer him something along those lines, but if that doesn't work out, then we need to have a backup plan. And I thought we had the backup plan that didn't work, so we have a number two. And the number two that we talked about, I think we all agreed for a minute, but then I think we had some backed out. But I think we made an agreement. We need to have a path forward if this does not pan out. But we can't continue to do what we've done in the past. We're gonna find ourselves and I think we need to make a decision as to if the offer that Commissioner Davis mentioned with the performance increment percentage, and we hit a number. If that doesn't pan out, then we need to have a backup, and that's my comment. Because we did hear from Mr. Thomas that his issue for dropping out was the fact that he had a number of travels, then he was out of at least $4,000 to $5,000. And again, continuing to wait on that amount of money to be reimbursed. I mean, a lot of people don't have that kind of money because wages are not tracking with the cost of living.
Well, he's gonna be reimbursed regardless, Mr. Thomas, and that's a whole different topic.
No. What I'm saying is the reason why he
Shouldn't eliminate them.
we should not eliminate him based on because
That's
he
not-
said that he retracted his candidacy.
Mhm.
And I think there was some sour, it put some of the people on the board in a sour mood. And I don't think that he should be hit with that piece there. I mean, he shouldn't be hit with that.
I get it, but then again, I think on the side of, I get it, but it's not our responsibility to make sure he applied for the job here in the city of Palatka. And if those were concerns and questions, those should have been things that were addressed at the time before he made the decision. Because if you look at the email that came from Mr. Thomas, and we're not even talking about him right
We're
now.
not, we're getting.
So it came, he said, after he talked to his wife. That conversation should have had before you made the decision to withdraw yourself from the process. We didn't withdraw him from it. He did it himself. And again, I think that as a leader, again, there's a level of expectation. And what about if he gets here and do the same thing?
You have to consider your family, Commissioner.
I did. You should have did it first before you said you wanted to withdraw.
Anyway, let's stay on Mr. Jones, because we need to, please, and finish up this discussion and decision as to how to move forward with an offer to Mr. Jones. What has been suggested is the 170 with incremental steps based on performance.
And there were other items.
Yeah, there were other items. of
Yeah, so the
concern for
salary
some-
was just not the the only item. So that was where I went with salary for relocation. Considering Commissioner Jones' feedback, when we were discussing this before, I know he was asking for more for relocation. I'm not opposed to countering for relocation, but a flat rate. I don't think it has anything to do with where he moves or all of those conditions. I'm not opposed to countering with the flat 10K. I'm putting it out there. Severance, absolutely not.
I agree.
And the reason is we are not on par with any national trends. And if the city gets on par with national trends, we can consider that in the future. But that's absolutely not. The severance is non-negotiable from my perspective. Vacation, I'm flexible. I'll yield to the other commissioners. I'm not a proponent of policing vacation time. I'm a proponent of holding accountability based on your evaluation and what you're supposed to do. So that's my feedback. In terms of the life insurance and professional development, life insurance and retirement contributions. I don't have a counter. I just said I would yield to the commission or HR for guidance. And professional development, I believe there's a budget line item there. So that's my feedback, Mayor.
Okay, I had some of the similar, relocation assistance, I can accept a maximum allowance of 8,000 is what I was proposing. So, I mean, I responded to Ms. Jones, and compensation, I stand firm on the maximum amount of base salary approved by the commission. Vacation leave relocation support, I'm fine with Mr. Jones' proposal. Due process and termination proceedings, I'm fine with what he suggested. Severance, I stand firm with 10 weeks. And personally, the residency thing is a little bit of a bugaboo for me and I need to get over it, but I think if somebody wants to be the city manager for this city, but doesn't feels living in the city is somewhat beneath them, and they're not going to be willing to pay taxes in the city, why would anybody else move to the city and invest in the city? You need to be a role model, and I had a problem with that, frankly. But that's again, my little thing about that. And the retirement contributions, I again thought we should stay with the big retirement contributions and plan that we have in the city, not the additional request that he asked for. Anybody else?
Well,
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, I agree with both of what you, the mayor and, our Commissioner Davis, spoke about, but I think in terms of, locking somebody into the city limits, that's the preference. We put maybe the preference in there. But we have, I said, well, situated similar to like our police officers, when they had a problem with recruiting officers, we allow our officers to go up to 40 nautical miles. Situated in that manner to where you have your CEO who have to be restricted to a 10-mile area, whereas you making the CEO restrict the 10 miles, and then we have people who work for him have or her got 40 nautical miles. What does that look like?
It looks like somebody leading and being a role model and deciding that the city is worth them living in and that they can. There is, in even this county, we said 10 miles beyond the county. Actually, there's nothing 10 miles beyond the county. You've got a radius of nothing. So it doesn't really accomplish anything. So if you're out of the county in that 10-mile radius, you're basically in haste. You're in agricultural. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's also available in the county. So I don't know where somebody gains with that concept. Yes, we had trouble recruiting police. This person is coming here. We advertised, they applied for the position. I think that's a somewhat different standard to me, but okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
Don't have anything to say.
Speak now. Hold the peace.
Bottom line is, we're prudent thinking people, you see it, and you guys looking at the contract, if you draw a hard line in the sand, you can stand by it or move on. Now, I do. Yeah, so that's it. Let y'all talk, I mean, make a decision. I don't wanna vote.
Yeah.
Already, so mine don't matter right now.
Commissioner Campbell?
My statement in the previous commission meeting, I'm more so focused on the actual salary expectation. The rest of it is I can take, I'm dead set on the severance. I know even in our last negotiation, that was something that we stood firm on. So I would not want to see that leave the vacation time. Again, accountability, the amount of relocation. I didn't like the breakdown of in the city without the, I didn't care for the breakdown of his counter with regards to, the 15 within the city limits, 10 within the postal address of the city, outside the city limits, and a 5,000 relocated beyond this. I didn't care for that. And so my real focus is the actual number that he's willing to accept overall, which I think is counter of base salary 193,627 is something that I'm not willing to do. I'm not willing to put our citizens in that situation.
So I guess because we need to give direction moving forward, what do we want to say? Basically that we're going to counter at the 170, which he's already aware of. How do we want to move forward collectively?
I'm interested in knowing how, so, and it may be up to the commission, well, it is up to the commission. When do we actually draw the line in the sand and say, yay or nay.
Do we want to take a vote?
Before we take a vote, I guess my question is, do we counter with something? Oh, huh?
I thought that's what it was.
I'm talking,
No,
I'm talking
no.
about.
So
No,
what,
if
yeah,
we make this the counter, which I'm not against with the performance with the
Right.
performance grade or whatever,
this is, oh,
I'm still at,
This was my line in the
if
sand.
this is the last
Yes.
counter, or if we're looking to,
oh, yeah.
that's what I'm trying to determine.
Oh, for me, it's my line in the sand.
The salary.
The counter,
The counter,
whatever we counter,
Is
if it's
it?
not accepted,
it's
to
all-
me, that's a line in the sand.
You're gonna do your counter with what you.
Well, that's what we've got to decide.
We have to decide. I'm just saying, whatever we counter, if he comes back from me, that's, I don't have anything
So it's
else.
two things that, well, at least what I'm hearing for consideration, is the compensation and overall,
Severance and relocation.
I think we're pretty much set on severance, that
Right.
we all agreed with the
Right.
10,000. We have to also come up with the relocation allocation. We heard 10,000 and we heard 8,000. We have to determine which, if those, either of those work for the commission or neither, or we remain the same. So those are two of the things from the conversation that I've taken away that we need to make a decision on, and then kind of go from there.
But if you ask me on that, I did say 10,000 relocation, 10 week severance as we did previously. The 20 days vacation, I was okay with that, as everybody else down there, and, I'm flexible with the insurance, range, I agree with Commissioner Boyle. We got officers that can live 45 miles away. How do we have their supervisor restrained 10 miles outside?
Listen, we got to live in the city.
So you chose that.
Oh, and he chose the job.
And he chose to apply for this job too.
I mean, that's okay, but you also look at, I mean, again.
When does it start and when does it end? We've got to start changing that whole kind of thought process about Palatka is not good enough to live in. Well, that's what it comes across as to the community, the people that live here, the people that pay taxes.
You know, we have a person that always say, we won't put them in Palatka best and brightest, that don't even live in Palatka. So let's talk about,
Well, thank you.
let me say that. I mean, this is truth. We have people that say that, and so would you miss a person just because of that?
Yeah,
I mean,
I probably
no, I ain't finished, so you don't know what I'm about to say. I say because of, the housing situation that we do have currently, but again, just to counter your point, not to make a point for this person, I'm just saying. So you make that statement as if we have plentiful housing and it's up to everybody's standard, that they are accustomed to, and I just don't have a problem with it, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, and in the contract, though, we did say within 10 miles of the county, and that he wasn't disputing that.
No, but he
wanted,
did
yeah,
counter.
he did
So
counter.
we gotta answer, if we're gonna answer the counter, or just go
I'd like
hard
to
no.
stay with that.
So where's
That's what I
everybody on it?
thought. I don't know what anyone else thinks. What's originally we proposed in the contract,
But
that's
his
within 10
counter,
miles. of the
let's be specific at what his counter was. His counter to what we said was 15,000 to move within the city limits, 10,000 for Palatka postal address outside the city limits, and then 5,000 for relocation beyond the city limits.
So I think, but so if we counter, we don't have to go by what he said.
No,
So
because we
if
were talking about the distance and all of those things. But I wanted to make sure that we key in on what the recommendations were, because it's gonna play a part in that portion of relocation assistance.
So if we counter say for relocation, just like we put in the original, it says 5,000. If our counter says, our counter could say, debit for Rome, Turner West, we allow $10,000 relocation, period. That's it. We don't have to address that
No,
other
I'm
stuff.
not, I'm not no. I get what you're saying, but I wanted to make sure because we're talking about what the police department, how they let, so it's irrelevant at this point because that's not a part of the counter. It's either
That's right.
inside the city limits, outside the city limits, so those are the things to take in consideration.
He doesn't say anything about extending it beyond
He
the
doesn't
10
say
miles.
Beyond the 10,
All right.
So
So I,
that's not an issue.
right.
I didn't say it was. I said 10,000. I'm okay with 10,000 relocation, period. That was just a point that Commissioner Bourne brought up, and I said I agreed with it.
Right.
So that, yeah, I didn't bring that up as something else.
So
So-
I'm okay with the 10,000 flat rate.
I can
Me
I
too.
can compromise on the 10,000 flat. So we're at,
Make a motion that we move forth with that portion of relocation assistance to the $10,000 flat rate.
and a maximum of the salary maximum, staying with what we offered.
Think we're,
We gotta, if we're gonna have.
are we gonna do one at a
motion,
time? Because,
Do one
We're
at-
gonna
I
do
think-
one item at a time.
One item at a time.
However you want.
Okay.
I just addressed that one because that's what we.
I second.
Motion is second, for the relocation costs. All in-
Time that I got a question right now on that,
Okay.
just HR for reference. So what is the rate of, I think we looked at 4%. So what percentage is that from our counter offer, our first offer? What is that? Do you know?
The amount.
I mean, you finance, so I actually do. 162.
No, it's like
While she's doing that, there are some unknown fiscal impacts on the request for the retirement benefit
I mentioned-
beyond the pension, which is a very generous pension.
That's
and
what I
then
said. I think
the-
we need to stick to the existing pension and not, again, what he proposed.
Okay,
additionally.
and then the insurance, we also don't understand the fiscal impact of that, just wanted.
We're waiting for the response to him. Go ahead.
I think.
We're waiting on the vote.
Clarify the question.
Yeah,
What percent? It's being calculated.
50% more. Okay.
Anything else? We have a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Okay, thank you. Let's start at one, compensation and performance-based bonus. Do we have a motion on that?
Well, before the motion, I mentioned, salary increases at 6 months and 12 months. Now, we didn't talk about what that looks like or how much.
Evaluation,
Right.
performance based.
Correct.
We don't gotta talk about it now.
Okay.
Cause how can you, I mean, you don't wanna put a number on it and
Okay.
it's performance based.
I just want to make sure. Okay.
But
No, it won't be annual, it perform, no, on normal, staff, it's evaluated on an annual basis for that piece, for like the, whatever the percentage is, right? But then I think what this is a special case where we're gonna be doing his or her at, the 6 month and then the 1 year,
I agree with that.
that's what.
That's what she
was
was
the
saying.
proposal.
I agree with the performance based, but he only gets evaluated once a year.
Like
No,
everybody
but
else.
this is a special case in order to be able to get to where, in terms of trying to make the package, to where he's
That's right.
asking for a certain number and we're not willing to do that number unless we see the performance. And we're gonna, Commissioner Davis wanted to do it in a couple of increments as it relates to that.
Commissioner Borum's correct. That is what I said.
I get what you're saying, but that's gonna change the trajectory of how we evaluate him. Because again, if he gets evaluated once a year, who's gonna determine what that performance base is?
But he's
The
getting,
probationary
he-
period is
he's
in-
getting evaluated
Probationary period.
twice.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
He's getting-
180 days.
So what I'm suggesting is we have the 180 days, which is the 6-month period to get off probation. And then there's a 12-month evaluation. What I was proposing is what I said. I am not saying you have to agree. I was just proposing that 170K base salary with a bonus structure upon agreed upon metrics, which we haven't written yet, at 6 months and 12 months for increases. That was what I was proposing.
No, I got exactly what you were proposing. And again, with regards to agreeing, I want to make sure as we move forward with this performance-based evaluation, that again, the top, how does it look? Because if I don't want to put a number on it. If we put a percentage on it, which is an increase that will be level to what another city employee would be considered as. Like, I get he's the city manager, but I don't think that with regards to performance, it should outweigh any other department that is eligible for.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to put a number.
And I'm probably agreeing. So I think, and again, we may need direction from HR or legal to clarify. The reason I'm separating this from any other staff member is because we're in a contract negotiation for salary. At this point, yes, I think this is the time to do it. We're still negotiating salary. I'm just splitting it out that the full amount he's asking for, that we not offer upfront as a base salary, but to look at getting there based on performance within the first year. Secondly, after that point, then I believe he would move as an employee to whatever the max or whatever we do at that point. So that's the point I'm trying to make. And my rationale, again, we've gone through all of this process to evaluate and look. No, we do not know once someone gets here how they perform, hence the probationary period. I think the onus is on the commission to ensure that we hold whoever takes this job accountable to do the things that we have to define that they need to do, which is where the miss has been in the past. So while I do get the hesitancy because the city's been bitten over and over and over again, but at some point we have to make strides toward making the best decision we can, managing that decision, holding the person accountable. And if they're not to be accountable for what they should be, we take the appropriate action in that time. I don't want to operate from a point of fear, from a point of failure. I think we should do everything we can going into this with a position of success. And we can only do that by clarifying what the expectations are and what they must do and holding them accountable. So
Can I say this? And the reason I'm saying this, and you say not to operate, but you have to think of history. We went into this the last time without clear expectations. So if we are in the negotiation process and we don't have what those clear expectations are, and we make a counter, it puts us in a position back to where we were last time. That's where my hesitancy come in.
But I think that's exactly what she's saying. So we would have that in place.
So if you provide me, 'cause like you say, I wasn't finished.
Okay.
If you provide me with a contract and it tells me that performance-based evaluation at the 6-month mark, forget the year. And I'm going into it not knowing how I'm supposed to perform. Those were the same exact conversations we had when we were trying to negotiate or when we got to the evaluation component of our last city manager. There is nothing to hold him to. That's where I'm concerned about if we present this to him, the time frame in which we get him what it is that we are holding him accountable for. We don't have it. Am I making sense?
Absolutely.
Am I making sense? I want to make sure.
You're making sense.
So you want me to sign a contract based on the thought and nothing that is tangible and written down on what I'm supposed to perform off of?
But that's what we're doing.
We're not, because we don't even have the meeting. This is gonna be something that goes back to him prior to the meeting that we asked for to have to go over the evaluation.
Maybe I'm confused. I want to get clarification. We don't have anything right now.
Well, I think that's what
That's my point.
That's.
I mean,
Commissioner
for,
Campbell said.
even if we said 170 and forget the performance base, we don't have anything right now. And we had a meeting tonight to get it in place, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Correct.
confused. So
But I'm
maybe
concerned,
I'm confused.
you are.
I am.
And it's fine. But I know what held us up or what we had to, there is nothing in place to hold someone accountable for, and we talk about performance based.
Agreed, and shame on us.
Well,
All I'm saying, it has to be, the onus is on us. We can control that, but I do understand you're saying at the point of submitting a contract, it's not written in the contract what he'll be held accountable to.
Exactly, and he said for sake of
I
time,
gotcha.
we can't hold him accountable for something or hold him up from another opportunity if we're not clear on what it is that we want. Say, for instance, we present him with it, and again, I'm not against it. I just want to make sure as we proceed,
I agree.
if he gives us a counter and say, what am I being held to? We
Understood,
have nothing, and then we further push it along the line.
understood. And I guess my point is, if what we can provide now is not accepted, we have to move on anyway, because we're not changing, we're saying we're not changing the salary. So my point is, I think then we have no more point of negotiation. I think that's where I am. So I don't know. I do hear your point and I do understand it. And I think that's what we have to decide here.
whether to continue these negotiations or not, basically.
Basically, that's what
And
it
I'm just
boils,
summarizing.
that's what it boils down to, because if we are not.
And then, yeah, if we can't.
However, I understand Commissioner Davis's
Yeah.
point, and it's plain. And we're on a working document right now. We have some of the benchmarks, and I know you have some additions. So tell me if I'm right, because I'm a little confused between both of you, but I do understand both points. So what I hear you saying is, based on the matrix that we have, and we're gonna basically evaluate him or her on, okay? There's the performance that they must meet or exceed these in the 6 month, 180 days review and the 12-month review. Am I right so far?
Mhm.
So the question is, are we gonna, at that point, they say performance-based, meaning if they meet or exceeds, they will get whatever bonus that we decide or performance increase like other employees have at their 6 month, or their 1 year. So the question is what we have good enough? And you saying no.
That's not what I said.
I'm asking.
I just told you, asked the question, I gave you an answer. That's not what I said.
Okay, so this is not what you're saying, but this is the document we've been working on for the last hour and a half. So we just been spinning our wheels. That's what you're saying.
Mayor, I do want to say this. I hear what you're saying, but he's also asking for a salary with none of it too. So at some point, the city, anytime you're hiring, we're taking a risk based on the information that was provided in the interview. We're making our best faith effort to give this to him. He has to make his decision based on what we're offering. And again, I want to clarify what I said because I did write it. I said, offer a base salary of 170K with a bonus structure upon agreed upon metrics at 6 months and 12 months with agreed upon metrics. And so those metrics, that's something he has to decide if he's willing to do, if he chooses to come here. We then would have to sit down and agree upon what is needed to meet that bonus at 6 months and at 12 months. That's what I'm proposing, no more, no less.
Okay, we're kind of here at a standoff. We've got to move forward. We've got to make a decision about whether to continue the negotiations or whether to not. And I understand, yes, I mean, you could entertain a motion with that.
You want to make the motion?
Yes. I move that we counter with a base salary of 170K with a bonus structure upon agreed upon metrics at 6 months and 12 months.
Second.
The motion is second, all in favor? Opposed?
Uh,
Nay,
nay, wait, that too.
nay. 2 nays, 3, so that passed. Moving
So a
on.
little clarification, I realize you want the amount of the bonus to be not clarified at this point, but is there a max that you
That's
want to
what I
set
was-
forth in the
that was my
contract?
concern.
That's what I said from the
Edit
very
the motion? I
beginning.
mean, I didn't know, I don't know what, I didn't know. So that's what I was trying to understand.
I still think the 193 is too high, so I mean. what-
Exactly.
No, we're not going to 103. That's why I asked about a percentage.
That's why I said, what are we trying to get to before we say no?
Because he's gonna wanna know that. I mean, he's gonna wanna have an idea if it's worth his while.
Could I ask a question?
Go ahead, you can,
Ma'am.
I'm sorry.
So this is an HR question, because it appears that we don't know it. So what, ma'am?
I didn't understand your question, because I would have put in the motion.
Okay, but go ahead.
So,
Yeah.
oh, I got you. So what is the percentage usually in the performance valuation? What does it go up to? From what to what?
The max any employee at this point is receiving is probably like 7, 8.
Can you give us a definitive number?
Because it depends on the.
What's the highest have we given, please? And the max, I guess.
The one that ever went through the city manager, first of all, so that's the highest pay grade. So.
Well, the second highest.
It would be the
What-
assistant city manager position. And that's probably an 8 or a 9, from where they were. A 7, 8 or 9, I would say 8 or 9 to be on the safe side. That they would receive on an annual, for an annual. For an annual, evaluation, yeah.
That's a little bit, that's a little bit.
Well, it depends on what you're making. So if you are taking and moving to the next step and your salary is already at 150 and you add, move to the next step, which is gonna be, I don't know, maybe 159 or something. So you're gonna get that percentage in there, and it's different for somebody that's all at 34,000 and move it to 34,506 or
Right,
something
but
like
I
that.
thought normally the state is normally run around 5%. 5% increase.
It goes up, it's up to
depends on
about,
the
like I
salary.
said, and I do have that on the worksheet to give you more definitive numbers on
So
here.
9% of 170 is 15,300, so we're already up to 185,300 at the 6 month mark, excuse me.
So my question is, you're right, with the motion we had without numbers, can we go in and put a
It's-
Not to
stop
exceed,
gap?
but you're
Yeah,
not
correct,
exceeding
but
there.
The motion is done.
I know that, that's why I'm asking. So what I am gonna ask the commissioners for, if you have a question, I need you to come straight with the question.
One at a time, please.
That is a max, and we did not say the percentage, so that, but it is working knowledge that we would know.
Did I not ask that?
Am I right?
Yeah, so if you say the metrics, because what your motion was, I believe, Jay.
One at a time, please. Lois, go
That
ahead.
it's a metrics. So if your metrics is 2-3% increase at 6, then that's where you would set it. And it's not based on what you're getting on an annual evaluation, because you're moving this differently at 6 months and then you're moving it at a year.
I just need to
So-
know so I can put it in the offer.
Okay, so we probably need to clarify that, though.
That's what I asked for, was
Yeah, I know,
clarification on
I
the
know,
max.
so- You know,
What
What was your max?
She didn't
Not- she
have
said
one.
not above.
My max was
She gave
gonna
a
be
max.
not above 189.
And so we calculate that out to
I mean,
the increment. or-
what does that look like?
Well, if you say 189,
It's
and you do the split, if you do the split,
I'm asking for. Parliamentary procedure direction.
Yeah. So you have a motion now that you have supplemented because I asked a question for clarification. If my understanding is right, you have a counter at 170, a bonus structure of agreed upon metrics in 6 months and 12 months with a cap of 189.
That's what I'm suggesting.
That is the motion. Clarify that that is the motion.
I'm clarifying that is the motion.
do we have a second?
So, well,
Do we have a second? Okay, I guess it died.
to see what we need to do then. Somebody needs to.
That motion died.
I second it because it don't have to go to the max. I mean, it's an evaluation, you give them. I second it, so.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any further discussion? We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
I have,
Okay.
I have
Okay,
a
I'm sorry.
comment
Go
about
ahead.
my motion. I gave my rationale when I talked about the amount per head. I gave it early on. So that's all I can say.
Okay. We have a motion, a second, all in favor? Opposed, nay.
Okay, and then to clarify, the severance remains at 10 weeks, vacation is fine. The retirement and
Retirement.
insurance requests, since you're taking this bit by bit, we could also get that in the form of a motion to decline
The proposal for the retirement of the life insurance.
both.
For both. My opinion is to decline. What's the thought of everybody else?
decline.
Do you want a motion on that?
Yes, please, because that's how you've been doing it, so I would just suggest being consistent with your format, yes.
Does anybody want to?
So is is it, you said the insurance and the,
Retirement
Retire-
contribution.
I'd like to make a motion to decline the insurance and the, what's the second?
Retirement
Retirement,
contribution.
insurance and the
proposed.
retirement settlement,
The proposed.
proposed settlement.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Thank you.
And then just one last change that was made in the counter, page 5, section 8, paragraph C. He put March 1st, 2026. That's what it was. Do you want to kicking it back to 2025 would be in alignment with the motion made by Commissioner Davis. So
Yes.
I'll need a motion
A
to go ahead
motion
and
to do
revise
that.
this.
Make a motion to revise the date to March 1st, 2025.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you.
Hold on one second while we just make sure we've got cleanup on them.
Yeah,
Where
for
is the-
section eight, where we had the language of the first 6 months, 180 days, of the city manager's employee shall be, that was taken out. He removed that. Where employment shall be probationary period, the city commission shall meet with the city manager to conduct a performance evaluation at or before the 100 days. That language was removed. Do we want to accept that?
No.
No.
Do you want a motion on that?
Yes.
Somebody want to make a motion on that?
Move.
Probationary period language remains as we presented.
A second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Any opposition? Thank you. Anything else that we've missed?
Just, can you give us
Okay,
a minute,
sure.
please?
and while we're talking about it, may I say something while we're talking about the contract?
Go ahead.
In the contract, I think, city managers are held harmless if they just do pretty much anything. They gotta, I mean, they can go out and do whatever and they are held harmless in the, event that they do something like that. And the city really held at put in a very bad predicament in terms of, having that language in there. So, we might want to look at it and consider, taking that whole harmless out. Because if they can be reckless.
Well, let's wait till Ms.
Yeah,
West.
just saying, I just want to just at
Let's
least
first-
look at it and think about that. The whole harmless, because you can get a bad city manager and they can really wreck the city.
Go ahead.
That's not on mine. We just don't have the same copy of the counter, so we're trying to reconcile that. Okay, so
Servants of the 10, you change the 20, but they're sticking with the 10 of compensation. At the rate of termination.
oh, here it is. It just dropped down. Okay, let me just. Are we gonna wait for Commissioner Jones?
Yes, I guess, because we don't want to have to repeat it. Makes more sense to wait.
Yep, and that's,
That's a no. That's he's saying. he
Right.
would Get severance even in that probationary period.
right.
We don't want to progress. I'll see what they're saying.
The air. thing.
We changed the number that they were doing.
Assuming the 2 million was a typo.
No. Oh, no, it's 2,000, additional 2,000. You marked those three out.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Right. That was declined.
We did that, what about the insurance?
Got it.
An additional?
They declined that. Yep, they agreed to that.
I'm sorry, what? What will we call it? It's not formal, nicely dressed. Casual dress, casual. Yeah, not jeans, but nice.
Change that.
I don't think there's ever been a
Just that.
Yeah.
All that
What was
additional
that?
added in there.
Well, we didn't want to have
Yeah,
to go
they
over
said
it
they
again,
were
so
okay
they're
with that.
going to, they're,
The emails, should we just let's go ahead and double check. Okay, just a few more things for cleanup and clarification under section 5, paragraph A. He added some additional terms regarding prior to taking a vote to terminate. Any objection to those terms?
that was with a 30-day notice.
Right.
I didn't have any objection to them. Seemed reasonable. Anybody else?
And in section 5C, he deleted the 180 days of employment. Well, basically, he would be entitled to severance during his probationary period.
Yeah, no,
Okay, so add that back.
I think we just, voted on that.
We voted on that.
Okay, and section 7, there's a reference to his bonus structure being, the metric being area vibes statistics as a key
Sure.
performance indicator. Do you want that to be your metric or not?
Um. I
I
That could be
can't say,
included.
I mean, we can look at it.
I don't want it to be the only.
Right.
It could be
Area of
included.
violence.
I think it's one tool.
Right.
Right. In combination with.
Yeah, so, in addition, there may be others in addition that we use the metrics.
Okay. That is all I have. And then I will go ahead and, make these revisions to the contract and circulate it back to Mr. Jones. I'll do that first thing in the morning. I'll get out the door before 9:30. However, what is your deadline for his response?
I'm real estate, wasn't say within 24 hours, but once he receives it, but what do we think is reasonable? This is Wednesday already. I think we want a response by Friday, don't we?
Close the business Friday, maybe.
What are everybody else's thoughts?
You have it in the morning? You will have it in the morning, you said?
Yes, sir.
And we also are going to have to discuss what happens if this doesn't happen.
It's a close of business Friday.
Right.
It's gonna be the weekend anyway. You'll get Monday?
Monday. Okay, Monday.
Because you're not gonna come.
Do we want to give him till Monday now?
Why don't you guys make a motion?
Somebody make a motion, please. Okay, are you gonna make a motion?
Commissioner Jones, you wanna do that? I'll make a motion that we have Mr. Jones or Mr. Redmond Jones to respond by no later than noon, Monday, Monday, today's date.
What happened to Friday?
Well, if we do it Friday, we're still gonna be Monday anyway, like Commissioner Jones just mentioned.
What's the close of business? What we gonna do?
Close the business.
Okay.
Because I mean, we're not giving
What are
that
we gonna
much
do
time
Monday
today.
midday?
Yeah, I mean, you could go ahead.
I move that we give a deadline of close of business on Friday.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay. Yeah, I think that's too long. Because we need to make some decisions as well based on his.
So where were you going, there? You was about to make a.
Well, I was just saying at this point, because we have an unknown here as to how he's gonna receive this and how he's gonna respond, but we need to come up with our plan B soon too. I don't know if this is something we want to do now or at this meeting we're going to have soon about further developing the performance appraisal tool. But we need to do this soon. I mean, I'm not optimistic on him accepting this, I'm sorry. So, yeah, I think we need to think about that. We can go on to the next agenda item while we'll ponder that.
Okay, and in the meantime, we'll have the clerk look at some dates.
Yes, because we
Within
need
the
to do that
next
sooner
week.
than later.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. West.
The next emergency agenda item is the approval of the 2025 Blue Crab Festival event agreement. Our interim city manager, Ms. Cardy, met with Janetta today to hammer out some of the issues. And we have consensus and Ms. Janetta has approved of what we have put on the table. So I will quickly go through this unless you've already had a chance to review. Any questions? No? Okay. The dates are going to be kept to a 3-day weekend. We are going to require that RQ Music provide the fire extinguishers every 75 feet along St. John's Avenue, but you'll see later on in the contract that we're going to be responsible for all the city staff fees and emergency services and so forth.
Hold on, before you go that far, have you calculated what those fees be?
Yes, sir. That was provided in the staff report that you had on Thursday. I believe it was about
Mhm.
36,000.
25.
36,000?
Yes, sir.
Or 25?
No, 36.
Okay.
Moving forward to the next page. She has agreed that within 36 hours of the conclusion of the festival, All the festival paraphernalia will be completely removed from municipal property. There is not going to be an increase in the amount of money that the city is paying. It was the 50,000 that was paid back in September. It's not going to increase. We are going to have 3 national acts. I did inquire Commissioner Jones as to what those acts were going to be. However, she does not release that. She would never apparently release the name of the act until much closer to the event time, probably in April. Fireworks shall be provided by the city at our sole discretion, at our expense. And the porta potties will be split.
You said the cost of the porta potties will be,
Split. And finally, in the event of termination, sorry, I'm looking for that. On page 3, either party may terminate. And upon termination, RQ Music shall return any unused funds to the city and provide an accounting of all expenditures. There was one last thing about intellectual property.
Mhm.
The city may use pictures, post-event memorabilia in a non-commercial manner, and the city does not retain the rights to the event's intellectual property.
Any questions?
So T-shirts and things of that nature all belong to her? Is that what I said?
We can't sell them.
We can't sell them. This is general information question. Her ask was to make this happen from us in the beginning was $25,000 more dollars.
That's correct.
75 total, yes.
So, but we're now gonna
See that.
basically pay 36,000.
I think.
Plus the share of the porta potties.
Right, when we need to know what is the porta potty, so now we don't need, do we know the split cost in terms of the number of porta potties?
Can work that out. I'm sure both parties, when they agreed to that, I wasn't privy to that discussion. I'm sure it was a 50-50 split. was
Privy.
what-
Well, I understand that piece, but the thing about it is, the 50-50, what is the number? 50-50, what is that number?
Well, they haven't been ordered yet, but the estimate that staff provided based upon last year's festival was 5,000.
So you're right at almost 40,000.
41.
41,000 total additional dollars over the 50 originally agreed upon.
But here we are, where the organizer already has the first 50.
Correct.
And
Well, the organizer have all the money that she requested in the original contract.
I'm not happy with it either, but I'm just saying, what else?
You know, so we're not getting a deal right there, so.
I think we need to really think this out in the future from here on. I mean, I don't know what we want to do today.
This is only for the 2025 festival. There is no automatic renewal. I specifically worked that into this contract to give the commission an opportunity to negotiate for future festivals.
Okay, how would we like to proceed? Do we have a motion to accept this contract and move forward or not?
I make a motion that we move forward. This is what we asked them to take back to RQ Music. So if we had any qualms at it at that time, we should have voiced it. This is something that we need to move forward with. Our citizens are looking forward to it. And again, thank you for working into the renewal so that we would have the opportunity. I do believe that there are some things on the city's end that we could have done different after with regards to debriefing and making sure that the commission was abreast a lot sooner than we were. But for sake of this year's festival, I'll make the motion that we accept.
A second.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Hey,
And I really think the fireworks component is something we should pass on for this year. Because of that additional cost, but that's just me.
you say
And
no?
I'm suggesting we don't, because we were responsible for that cost on top of the additional costs were the costs that we are absorbing already. But I don't know.
No matter how it goes, it wouldn't have been good, but we don't want citizens to suffer at the.
I think
we
it's the
don't want-
lesser of two evils.
But we don't want people to hamstring us either, get us to the door and then switch out.
But
That,
again, we
that's
have the
another thing
But
that
it's awful
people,
late and we need to next.
well, let me finish,
Yeah,
Mary,
sorry, go ahead.
let me finish. We just don't want people to get us to the door and they know that we're gonna say yes if they tweak the number to what they want it to be because we don't want to let the citizens down. No, they're letting the citizens down. And next year, we need to have a backup plan or either we need to move on with a different venue. With an entertainment group.
Attorney West made sure that the door was closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else that we need to?
You said we were gonna circle back.
We were going to circle back and the question was whether we are going to discuss the backup plan for city manager, or are we going to do that now, or are we going to do that when we get together next week? If we can get together next week, Madam Clerk.
Mayor, if I may, Tuesday on the 25th is wide open. We can have it anytime during that day. Or we could wait till March 3rd. And the reason why there is a break there is because everybody's gone for the weekend for the the FBC LEO conference. So I suggest Tuesday, the 25th, if it's possible with y'all, and you can, like I said, it's open, so.
I can do the 25th. What about anybody else?
I'm not available on the 25th. I won't be in town. You just made the appointment today, dude. What time? What time on 25th?
That was up for discussion. What time?
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
fine with the afternoon.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't have pension meetings, so on my calendar.
Roughly, or until 5 is what is on the calendar.
And I'm not available from around 11:30 to 1:30.
Well, since it's on the agenda, can we speak on it briefly? If we could.
It's not going to be brief. That was my
No,
concern.
well, but we're here a whole nother day is a totally different thing. I mean, people took time out right now to be here. So, in respect to
And if we can
everyone's
keep it
time,
up, keep on task and not go
we
on.
can just say what we're gonna do and move on. It doesn't matter. I don't think it'll take that long to make that determination. I'd say. It don't matter.
Optimistic. Commissioner Campbell?
My statement was, and it has remained, if he does not accept, we keep things going as though they are.
Commissioner Jones?
Could we clarify that a little bit? Because I was.
We keep things as though they are, and then we determine if he does not accept. I had no second. I have no problem with who we have serving in the capacity as interim right now. That would have been my request. I made the request during the time frame when the Mr. Thomas dropped out, that she be brought up for consideration, being that she was our fourth across the board. So I don't have a problem with her remaining at this time.
Commissioner Jones?
Mayor, I asked to get your direction. Since you're the chair of this board, I want to know what direction that you would like to see us go in, so that versus our own opinions,
Okay,
Right now,
I mean,
your
I can
ladies-
give
I'm
I was
questioning you.
going to give my input at the end. I was letting everybody else give their thoughts first before we go. Just so that, we hear everybody's thoughts.
But it's your guidance and your leadership at this time, of what's being requested.
I actually concur with Commissioner Campbell and think we should just move forward and, we have an interim city manager. With, if we were to go forward with having that person become the permanent city manager instead of the interim, and backfilling her position. So that gives her the ability to focus entirely on this job. I think we should give that opportunity. And we'll stop probationary period, the clock would start again. Any issues that had to be addressed would need to be addressed. But I think I think that's the best direction, Commissioner Boyle.
Well, you skipped over.
Well, he wanted me to skip over.
Come on, y'all. Come on.
Come on. Commissioner Jones, what are your thoughts? I gave mine, you asked my thought and my leadership, and that was what I think. So what's yours?
I think that we had a process that we put in place to even bring into a consultant to help HR with this process. And we are where we are. We have vetted candidates. I think we had over 18 of them apply based upon their rankings with HR and the consultant. We interviewed, had staff interview, brought people in, and we have the top 3 that came out of that pool. Or rather it's the top 4, however you want to put it. But I think that we should have been clearer in how we was gonna do this in the beginning. That's why I'm asking today, because next week it may change. So we put, I would have liked for it to be clear where we were gonna go. That's why I asked that question early on. So, you know, yeah, we asked, I think you gave the direction to rank them between 1 to 3, and we did that. So here we are. I'm gonna stick with my 1, 2, and 3. And how we do it, it's gonna be at the pleasure of this board.
Commissioner Barr?
Oh, again, we did agree on the process, and Commissioner Jones is absolutely correct. Even after the 1, 2, 3, when we did our rankings, I tried to make a motion at the time to add a fourth, and that was Ms. Carty. And I think there was a vote that we're not changing the process, and that's in the recording. And because it was communicated that we want to stick with the process, we don't want to change, and now it looked like we're changing. And then we circle back around and we did select we said we're going to have a top and a backup. That's what we agreed on. And now we're backing out of that. So what do we really want?
May I make a response?
Go ahead, Commissioner Campbell.
It's on the record.
Let me get my feedback first, please. So we had a process. We followed the process totally. I think where there may be some disagreement is on when we chose a 1, 2, 3. I think we chose the top 3 to come for the interview. And then after the in-person interviews, we then had a 1, 2, 3. We had a consensus, a full consensus on who was our number 1 that we wanted to offer. I did not take that to mean that number 2 was a backup. I just think we were trying to get to our number 1 is the way I understood the process. As for me, we chose the 3 candidates to invite for an in-person interview based on performance in the Zoom interview. When the 3 candidates came in person, for me, only 1 stood out, and that's who we made an offer to. The other 2 for me were no longer an option based on the information provided in person. I do not see them as either of them as a fit for Palatka at this time as a city manager. To that point, I'm going to recommend that in line with Commissioner Campbell, that we continue as we are. and that we're gonna have to go back out and start the process to get to get a city manager again. So that's where I am. And that's
Is-
it.
Okay. Was that what you were? Okay.
Well,
I've got an offer out there.
when I say as we are, I get the rush, but and to Commissioner Bourne's point, the motion that he made, the reason, because prior to the interview, the first question I asked was, were we going to give consideration to an in-house person? Generally, when you're going through an interview process, consideration is given to in-house.
Mhm.
That was turned down, hence the reason why no additions were made. As far as where we are now, I concur with the whole situation about the number one. That was the number one that we all came up with. And I stated in the meeting, for the record, I don't have a number two. And if we don't go with who we went with as far as the candidate, Mr. Jones, I was going to resort back to keeping things the same as they are now.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mayor, I would like to say, if we do land with things remaining the same with an interim, we have to set some goals. We have to establish something because this has gone on for a period of time. And we have some things that need to be addressed immediately.
And I think that's where I'm getting to, because we talk about the process. And I get that we have a process, but we also have to take in consideration, we have citizens of Palatka that we are accountable for. And if we are a part of the process and we see that the process does not work necessarily for us, there should be a consensus if we take in consideration any deviations from the process. So again, Commissioner Jones makes a lot of valid points, but then again, mainstream, when we identified that some things may not have been ironed out completely, we decided to continue to go on with the process without knowing, knowing that we could get to the end and it could possibly again appear. That's why I was so concerned about the dropping out, because that wasn't a part of the process, but we still had to address it, and we addressed it in a form that allowed all of us to have our say. So I wholeheartedly agree, for the sake of time, if we are looking to move forward, because I believe that the mayor has already gave her feedback, I want us to bring this to an end.
Okay, with that said, what's the final consensus as far as moving forward? And we also have to ask the person in question if she's willing to continue to do that.
First, you got a counter offer
Well,
that.
we know that, but I'm just saying,
Once they go in, yeah.
this is beyond that.
In case, yeah.
Case,
right.
this is all in case,
Right.
so we need to have, again, we're sitting here, we extended the meeting to discuss this, we need to have a conclusion to that. Which includes asking the interim city manager if she wants to continue in that iffy role and have her be filling two positions and so on and so forth. So how do we want to proceed? Do we want to do that? If we are not able to negotiate a contract with our top choice.
Jones, you asked us to stay, so give us some.
Give you some guidance on that. I think after you guys have voiced your position, I think we need to wait until the offer is accepted or rejected first. And then, because of the fact you're putting the cart before the horse, I think that's, you are, because unless you guys just go ahead and hard fact and say, hey, this is where we are, I mean, the vote is already here. Because,
Mayor, yeah.
because let's be honest with you, I don't want to. Yeah.
Jones, you did it.
No, I did it because I said, I want to know what the process, all that other, that was some stuff that if I was applying for the job, my decision would have been made, you know? based upon conversations. And
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
We have a motion to adjourn in a second. We didn't finish.
It's
There was
funny
no
till it's not
second.
funny.
It's
Not funny at all. It's
You
not funny at
laugh,
all.
but